Title: 2. I ate perfectly, slept well, and still felt awful until I got my blood checked. My name's Jordan, I'm 35, and I live in London. If you looked at my life from the outside, you'd probably think I had it together. I meal prep grilled salmon and greens. I jog 4 times a week, rain or shine. I drink 2 liters of water a day, stretch before bed, and get a solid 7 to 8 hours of sleep. No alcohol. No junk food. I even quit caffeine because I heard it might mess with my energy levels. I followed all the wellness advice. And still every morning, I woke up tired. Not the I stayed up too late kind of tired. This was deeper. It was like my brain was running through fog. I'd read the same email 3 times before the words made sense. I'd lose track of conversations halfway through. My head ached constantly, like something was pressing from the inside out. And the worst part? The guilt. I started asking myself, what's wrong with me? Am I burned out? Lazy? Depressed? Did I miss something in my routine? I doubled down, tried cold showers, meditation apps, magnesium before bed. I switched my workouts to mornings, then to evenings. Nothing helped. Some days I pushed through with sheer willpower. Other days, I just stared at my laptop, embarrassed by how exhausted I felt after doing almost nothing. And of course, I didn't tell anyone. How could I complain when I had no real reason to feel this way? I kept thinking, if I'm doing everything right, why do I still feel awful? That question became the soundtrack of my life. I didn't have a stressful job. I didn't have kids waking me up at 3 a.m. I wasn't dealing with trauma or a breakup. On paper, I was the healthiest guy in my office. But inside, something felt off in a way that no smoothie or sleep hack could fix. One day, standing on the tube, dizzy and drained after 8 full hours of rest, I realized this can't be normal. Something had to give. Something wasn't adding up. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't about what I was doing. Maybe it was about something I wasn't seeing at all. When things didn't improve, I did what most health-obsessed people do. I tried harder. I started waking up even earlier, 5:45 a.m., thinking maybe I just needed more structure. I added an extra gym session, swapped my steady-state jogs for HIIT workouts. I told myself, push through the fog, and the energy will return. But it didn't. I stopped drinking coffee altogether, hoping removing stimulants would help my body regulate naturally. For a week, I had headaches and couldn't focus at all. After that, I still felt exhausted, just without the caffeine to cover it up. Then came the food experiments. I cut out refined sugar. Nothing. I eliminated gluten even though I'd never had an issue before. Still nothing. I ate more omega-3s, added turmeric lattes, drank lemon water in the morning. I even tried a 7-day juice cleanse I found online. All it did was make me hungrier and crankier. When that didn't work, I turned inward. I downloaded 3 different meditation apps. One for breathwork, one for sleep, one for mindfulness. I sat cross-legged in my living room every evening, hoping that stillness would unlock something. And sometimes it helped temporarily. But as soon as I stood up, the heaviness returned. Desperate, I tried cold showers. Every morning I stood under freezing water, shivering and gasping, thinking, this has to shock my system into feeling better. It didn't. No matter what I tried, nothing seemed to lift the weight off my body or my mind. That's when the self-doubt crept in. I started wondering if I was just lazy. Maybe I was weaker than I thought. Maybe I just couldn't handle adulthood like everyone else seemed to. I stopped mentioning how tired I was to friends. They'd just say, yeah, same, or you need a vacation. But I'd been on a holiday. I'd rested. This wasn't just stress or screen time. This felt broken. Eventually, I pulled back. I skipped a few social invites. I turned down a weekend trip. I started saying no to late-night calls and group chats. Not because I didn't want connection, but because I didn't have the energy to pretend. On the outside, I still looked healthy, fit, even. But inside, I felt like a light bulb running on 20% battery. It was confusing, frustrating, and honestly, humiliating. How could I be doing everything right and still feel so wrong? I didn't know the answer, but the harder I tried to fix myself, the more broken I felt. And that's when I finally realized this wasn't something I could out-discipline. This wasn't about motivation or hustle or another biohack. This was deeper. And if I didn't figure it out soon, I was going to burn out completely. It happened on a Wednesday morning during a team presentation on Zoom. I wasn't even the one talking, just listening. But somewhere between slides 4 and 5, my vision blurred slightly. My heart started to race. My hands were clammy. I wasn't nervous. I'd heard this info before, but my body reacted like I was in danger. I muted myself, turned off the camera, and sat back. I stared at the wall for a long moment, breathing slowly, trying to steady the pounding in my chest. I thought, is this a panic attack? Am I losing it? When the call ended, I closed my laptop, grabbed my coat, and walked out of my flat. No destination. Just walking to clear my head. About 10 minutes later, I passed a pharmacy with a sign in the window, "Private health checks, no appointment needed." On impulse, I walked in. The woman at the counter smiled. I asked, "Can I get a blood test?" She nodded. "General screen or something specific?" I hesitated. "I don't know, just energy levels, I guess." It wasn't fear that pushed me and it was exhaustion. I didn't expect a diagnosis. I just wanted peace of mind. Maybe it would rule things out. Maybe it would give me a reason or at least remove the feeling that this was all in my head. They took a small vial of blood and said the results would come back in a week. I thanked them, left, and went home. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept like a rock. Not because I felt better, but because I'd finally done something. I didn't know what the blood test would show, if anything. But in that moment, just knowing I'd stopped guessing and started checking felt like a turning point. A quiet part of me hoped the results would say, "You're fine." But a louder part of me whispered, "Maybe this isn't all your fault." And honestly, that thought alone brought relief. A week later, the email arrived. Subject line, "Blood test results, private health clinic." I opened it with mild curiosity, expecting it to say everything was within normal range. Maybe a note about stress or hydration. Instead, I saw 3 words that stopped me cold. Severely low vitamin D. Below that, low iron, borderline 12 deficiency. I blinked. Reread it. Then read it again, slower this time. I'd expected something vague, maybe a nudge to sleep more or reduce screen time, but this was specific, measurable, and suddenly, undeniable. I booked a follow-up call with the clinic's doctor the next morning. She didn't sound surprised. "Jordan, your lifestyle looks great on paper, but without vitamin D, your body struggles to regulate energy, mood, and even immune response. Combine that with low iron and B12, that's a recipe for fatigue, fog, and irritability." I just sat there, stunned. These were basic nutrients. How could I be missing them? She asked me a few simple questions. "Do you work indoors most of the day?" "Yes, I work remotely." "Do you get much direct sunlight?" "Not really, I live in a flat with small windows." "Do you eat much red meat or leafy greens?" "Not a lot. Mostly chicken and grains." It hit me. All the routines I thought were healthy were missing key ingredients. I'd swapped meat for lentils and skipped the sun to stay productive indoors. I'd cut corners in the name of clean eating and replaced variety with predictability. And I hadn't had a proper blood test since I was 28. She continued, "These deficiencies don't happen overnight. They build up, and they can affect everything: energy, focus, mental clarity, even sleep quality." No wonder I felt like I was falling apart. It wasn't burnout. It wasn't laziness. It wasn't all in my head. It was chemistry. I felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, embarrassment, frustration, but mostly clarity. For the first time in months, I had an answer that made sense. I wasn't broken. I was running on empty. The doctor gave me a plan. Start a high-dose vitamin D supplement. Begin daily iron and B12 capsules. Get outside at least 15 minutes a day. Retest in 8 weeks. It sounded almost too simple, but after months of pushing, guessing, and blaming myself, it was exactly what I needed. A starting point. Not another hack, not another punishment. Just a real, human solution to a real, human problem. And that changed everything. I started the supplements the same day the doctor sent over the recommendations. Vitamin D3 in a soft gel. Iron tablets with orange juice to help absorption. B12 drops under the tongue every morning. It didn't feel like a miracle cure, but it felt like action. Like a step in the right direction. I also started walking during lunch. Nothing intense, just 15 minutes outside, even if it was cloudy. Just being out in the daylight felt like breathing for the first time in months. I changed a few things in my meals too. I added spinach and lentils. Bought a bit more red meat, something I hadn't done in years. I even looked up recipes high in iron and B12 and batch cooked a few for the week. And slowly, something shifted. About 10 days in, I realized I hadn't taken a mid-afternoon nap in days. My brain fog had started to lift. Emails no longer felt like heavy puzzles. I could read something and remember it 5 minutes later. I could sit through meetings without zoning out. Evenings felt different too. I wasn't dragging myself to the sofa, completely done by 6 p.m. I had energy enough to read, call a friend, or even just sit quietly and feel awake. 2 weeks in, I woke up one morning before my alarm and just lay there. Not groggy, not heavy, just awake. My body felt rested, my thoughts felt clear. I actually smiled. It was the first morning in months that I didn't feel like I was starting the day from a deficit, because for so long I'd carried this shame. I thought I wasn't trying hard enough, that I was somehow failing at life. But it turns out, you can't fix exhaustion with guilt. You fix it by finding what your body is missing and giving it back. A month later, my follow-up test came back. Vitamin D improving, iron steady, B12 back on track. But honestly, I didn't need a chart to tell me I felt it every morning. Now I get a full checkup once a year. It's non-negotiable. And when friends tell me they're exhausted, I don't say, drink more water or cut carbs. I say, stop guessing, get a blood test. We're told that health is all about willpower, what we eat, how much we move, how disciplined we are. But sometimes, your blood tells a different story. You can meditate, meal prep, and exercise daily. But if your body is missing essential nutrients, you'll still feel stuck. No amount of motivation fixes deficiency. When I look back, I'm not ashamed anymore. I'm proud I stopped blaming myself and finally looked deeper. Moral lesson: your body can't run on discipline alone. Sometimes, what's missing is invisible until you check. Ending CTA, follow for more stories that go deeper than diet. Subscribe for lessons that help you stop guessing and start healing. How to Health, Tired Not Lazy, Blood Test Wake Up, Men's Health Matters, Energy Starts Inside.